welcome back. This is your Feel Good Breakfast show. It's a Thursday morning, and we certainly do appreciate having you in our company at the start of a brand new day. Now, of course, you heard the music. It means it's baby talk time. And we all know there comes a time in your parenting journey where discipline needs to be introduced. And toddlers are notorious for challenging behaviour and their tantrums. Many 6 to 12-month-olds start to develop an opinion on things. They protest having things taken away or keep doing things after being told, no, you can't do that. And so on today's Baby Talk, we're joined by Occupational Therapist Meg Faure, who has promised to ease the minds of many parents struggling to figure out what the best methods for discipline are, which is great to have you here. And I was saying earlier on to you, it seems that every single week on Baby Talk, you talk about things that are happening in our parenting life at home as well. Because right now, for little Phoenix, no has become an option.
Yep, and he's using it.
When it comes to food and what he wants to eat, what he wants to do, whether he wants to come to you or not when you call him, he can say, oh no.
I know.
Things like that are now on our thing.
I think it's different for me because whenever we in this topic, I'm always like, I'm going to get there. So now I'm actually at the part where it's 6 to 12 months and I'm in that heart of it. Yeah. So I really want to know, define discipline for us and what are good methods of teaching discipline?
Yeah, so I think the main kind of focus of discipline, the main goal should be to coach our little ones or train them so that when they're not with us, they're actually being socially acceptable and they are not a danger to themselves and they're not going to hurt someone else. So that's the broad kind of goal of discipline. And it's a lot about coaching and training them and really kind of putting those words in their head so that when you're not there saying the word, don't stick your fingers in the plug hole, that it actually is something that they can say in their own mind. And that's really what discipline is all about.
Yeah. What are some of the typical challenges that parents face at each stage of introducing, implementing and practicing discipline?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely the first thing is that, I mean, the first stage that happens under 12 months of age, which you might be going through, Jamie Lee, is like they don't like to lie on their back to have their nappies changed. Or, you know, is he doing that all the time?
Yeah.
So, all the time. So that's a really...
So the kicks are now just...
So that's actually a really good one I want to point out because that's actually developmentally a very appropriate thing. And in actual fact, as OTs, if a baby doesn't protest being on their back to have their nappy changed, we would think that there was a problem. So in actual fact, this is a normal stage of development. So some of the stuff that irritates us, like for instance that, is actually stuff that we don't want to extinguish or get rid of. It's just stuff that is a bit of a hassle for us, but it's not going to ultimately create a lifelong challenge for them.
Yeah.
Going into the toddler years, though, there can be things that really can be an issue, like biting a little friend or saying no when you want them to, for instance, stay in their bed in the evening when it's bedtime. Those are discipline issues that really crop up in the toddler years that are tricky for us as parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what underlies this behaviour? And like, you know, the tantrums, you say sometimes they say, you're just throwing a tantrum. But now what contributes to those tantrums, you know?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things you need to consider as a parent. First thing is the organic. So always go back to, are they getting sick? Because when little ones are getting sick, they get irritable, they're more likely to throw temper tantrums.
Yeah, no way of expressing themselves otherwise. They don't have the vocabulary to say, I am not well.
Exactly, and their behaviour goes out the window. If they are hungry, and that's a big one. Like often we'll be in the shops, we're busy shopping at the end of the day, and we're standing in that kind of exit aisle, and they're all screaming and shouting about wanting sweets, but they're just hungry. Yeah. Another one is tiredness. If little ones are tired and overstimulated, they're going to throw a frothy. And then you've got the two classic toddler ones. One is frustration, like they want to do something, and they can't get it done, so they'll throw themselves a temper tantrum. And the other one is pure willfulness. They just want to assert themselves, which is exactly what Phoenix is doing. He's found the word no, and he wants to make sure that he has an identity and an autonomy, so he's asserting himself. And that then clashes with mom and dad who've got an agenda with, you've got to get dressed for school, you've got to, you know, whatever it is. So, and that's very often what comes up in the toddler years.
Yeah, and then Monique, she's now got him into sitting in the naughty corner, which works. I'm still learning how that works. But is that typically one of the first things one does in order to kind of, because it's punitive, it's punishment, it's punishment.
It's punishment, yeah.
And I wanted to understand where that kind of conflicts with, you have to understand that your child is developing a personality. And for the first time, they get to see things from their point of view, and they're trying to say, this is the world around me, this is how I interpret it and how I want it to work, just like any other person needs to do. How much of understanding needs to go into that from a parent point of view to say, but my child is developing a personality.
Yeah, autonomy. So Erickson, who's one of our psychology theorists, talks about one of the challenges of toddlerhood is either you emerge with autonomy, feeling strong about yourself and a good sense of yourself, or you emerge with doubt. And our biggest role as parents is to make sure our little ones emerge with autonomy. So part of that is to say that I'm not going to sweat every single thing, because if you mind down with every single thing that your toddler's going to do, you take away their autonomy and you're going to be fatiguing yourself. You're going to be chasing down every single little thing.
That's true.
So my number one thing, before you start with discipline, the first thing is to pick your battles with toddlers. So don't chase down everything. Like, for instance, if your toddler wants to wear pajamas to school,
let them.
Okay. Let them. It's not the end of the world. However, if he wants to swim in the swimming pool without water wings on and he can't swim yet, that you have to chase down. So I always say, choose your health and safety issues. So if they're going to hurt themselves, hurt another person, or if it's unkind, those are the things you need to chase down. But whenever possible with the toddler, give them a little bit of leeway to be able to actually choose what they're going to do. So that's step number one in discipline.
So I guess, Phoenix, you're allowed to unpack the cupboards from now on.
Exactly. He's exploring. Do it.
Oh, wow. Interesting and enlightening conversations. Listen, send through your comments on Expresso Morning Show SABC 3, our Facebook page. We're talking about disciplining your little ones, especially in those younger years. Please give us some advice on how you've gotten it right. Maybe you're facing certain challenges. Meg is here for you.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. As you heard that sound, we are talking baby talk. Now, this morning's chat is all about discipline and how rather to enforce it. Now, of course, our friend Meg Faure is here to discuss more and maybe just give us a bit more tips on how we can manage discipline. So
it's always the interesting thing, especially when you say, like, how do we enforce discipline versus introducing it, implementing it, and practicing it. I'm trying to get more along those lines of thinking, because discipline in this day and age has changed quite a lot versus how our parents and their parents raised them earlier on. But before we get into the meat of it all, let's take a look at this comment that came through from Marlies Meyer, who says, "Morning, I have a 2-year-old. I'm doing everything, even the naughty corner. She throws the worst tantrums. I also have a 6-month-old. What can I do to try to understand her and get her to stop her tantrums? I really can't go anywhere with my 2-year-old. Wow.
Yeah. No, so tantrums are hectic, and this is the age for them. So what I want to do with this situation, and what you should be doing with tantrums, first of all, start with the organic, like I said just now. Is she hungry? Is she tired? Is she overstimulated? That's where you start with tantrums. Next thing, and it's probably none of those.
Wait, how do you tell if she's overstimulated?
So that's like you've been at a birthday party, it's time to get in the car and leave. She's had lots of stimulation, she throws a frothy then and there.
Yeah.
So she's probably overstimulated.
Yeah.
So
and is that the equation of if she's 1 year old, about an hour's worth of stimulation is adequate. 2 years old, 2 hours. Anything more than that means overstimulation.
Absolutely, exactly. Cool. So just watch how much stimulation is going on. Watch that she's not hungry, watch that she's not tired. So with her toddler, a 2-year-old must still be having her day sleep, so make sure she's having her day sleep. So you take care of all of that. Then, with toddlers, temper tantrums usually happen for one of two reasons, which I mentioned just now. One is frustration, and in this case, she's got a 6-month-old who's very cute. And that often happens that the 2-year-old then starts to play up in order to get attention because they're frustrated around not being understood or not getting enough attention. So there is that aspect as well. And then the third aspect is that the toddler is just asserting herself and she's throwing temper tantrums because she wants something now and she's not getting her way. So how do we deal with that? The first thing you do when a little one throws a temper tantrum is you get down on their level. So you get down, you hold their hands, you look them in their eyes and you say, I know that you want whatever you think they want, or I think that you might be feeling wada, wada, wada. So the reason we do that is we start with getting into their head so they feel understood, because that takes away the frustration and lets them feel understood. So that's first thing. Can I give you a cuddle? You're going to try that. Now, both of those techniques, if the baby's having a temper tantrum, are not going to work. But we always start there so that they feel that they've been understood. Because the next step is something that can feel quite harsh as a parent. And that is that we actually walk away from them while they're having their temper tantrum. So let me explain why that works. So when you're having a temper tantrum, your emotions are very high and you are having a huge amount of there's almost a fire going on. So if a mom or dad responds with love and cuddles or with putting him in the naughty corner, what ends up happening is that you kind of fuel that fire because you're giving it attention. But when you walk away from that fire, it's almost like you take the oxygen out of the situation, oxygen away from the fire, and the fire fire settles. And you only have to do this 2 or 3 times for your toddler to understand that they're not going to, A, you're not going to give in, and B, they're not going to get a response. So first try and give them some love and help them to self-regulate. If that doesn't work, then just walk away. And actually one of the things that I use as a technique with my moms in my practice is I say gently to your child, stay there on the floor and walk away. Because now if you're telling them to stay there, that's the last thing they want to hear from you, because they're wanting you to respond in a different way. And you only have to do that 1 or 2 times with a temper tantrum for a toddler to work out that actually this is not getting me any further than I want it to be. So that would be my response to temper tantrums.
Ooh, lessons of life. Nikki Uber says, I fully agree that you need to give your baby space to discover their person and develop their personality. I think the thing parents need to remember is that it's your job to help your little one to figure out their emotions and how to deal with them effectively. Being new in the world is scary and they learn so many things so quickly. I could be wrong. My son is only 5 months old. Incredible little creatures.
She is absolutely spot on. And that's why, even with the temper tantrums, your first response is to go in and identify the emotions. Because the biggest part about growing up when you're little is to learn what your emotions feel like. So when I'm throwing myself on the floor, I don't feel that I like myself. I don't love it. And for a parent to come in and be in tune and respond to my emotions is very, very important. So I love what Nikki said. She's spot on.
I've got a question to ask, rather controversially so. Are we past the point of spare the rod, spoil the child? Is that old school, irrelevant, not applicable to modern day discipline?
Yeah. We don't talk about hitting children or spanking children, and it's a very important message, Kat, because I think that there are a lot of parents who in frustration resort to hitting their children. It is completely counterproductive for a number of reasons, but mainly it's because you can really hurt them. And particularly when you are disciplining your child, or smacking them, shall I say, not disciplining, but when you're smacking your child, you are often doing it in anger. And the problem with that anger is that you can lose control, and that's very dangerous. So what we rather talk about now is using timeout. You mentioned it earlier on, and the other mum mentioned it, the naughty corner. We use timeout for things that when a little one is crossing a health and safety boundary. They're going to hurt themselves, they're hurting somebody else, or they're being very unkind. And there you should have a naughty corner, or we actually call it the peace cushion. I have a business called Play Sense, and we use the word the peace cushion. And when they are throwing sufficient of a temper tantrum that they're going to hurt themselves, or when they are going to really hurt themselves by doing something or biting another friend, for instance, then you've given them a choice. So either you say sorry to your friend or you go to the peace cushion. You can then use it. And then if you're going to use that for discipline, the rule of thumb is 1 minute per year of their age. So, for instance, if they're 2 years old, it's 2 minutes. If they're 3 years old, it's 3 minutes. At a stretch, and it's always in a specific place. And please try and not do it in anger. So don't say, no, you're going to the corner. You say, come now, you've done this. You either say sorry or you're going to the naughty corner, or whatever you want to call it. So it's done in a controlled manner. And please, definitely no hitting of children. It's
Meg,
not
I
okay.
wish we had 3 more hours just to chat to you about this, because it seems like the process of instilling discipline in a child is as much a learning process for the parent as it is for the child at the end of the day. You can follow Meg at Meg Faure on social media. Throw all your questions her way. I'm sure she'd love to engage with you and teach you about the field that she is expert in. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, Kat.